Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
absolutely impossible.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronard takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
I'm very good, thank you. I'm excited to be back in F4, and Japan is always a good one to commentate on, very high speed, and some tricky corners, tricky traction zones, very easy to spin as well, so hopefully we won't see many from these top drivers here today, but I'm excited to get onto the race. Absolutely. In a sense, it's a bit like Monaco with like how high you qualify. I fear we're going to see quite a bit of DRS trains, and I believe the strategy is going to be hard medium. I've just been keeping an eye on F3 with Alex Bagnall and Rob in the commentary booth, so and it looks like they're doing a hard medium. So let's see if that is the strategy for these drivers here today. But qualifying should be starting pretty soon. I think we're waiting on just one driver, and then we should get straight into the action.
Yes, we certainly are. And apologies if you could not hear me just then. For some reason, my mic wasn't being picked up by OBS. But it's all fixed now. So I did mention that. It's me here tonight along with Ben. But yeah, you've heard what Ben's had to say. It's certainly going to be all about the qualifying this evening, of course, compared to F124. Not as easy to overtake. But last time out in Texas, we had some big swings in the championship standings. Dimas had a 16-point lead heading into that race. But let's see how the standings now line up coming out of the Lone Star State. So then, ladies and gentlemen, here are the standings after the round at Texas, and you can see second place for Carlos Galindo now puts him second in, of course, keeps him second in the standings, puts him 9 points behind on Alexander Dimas. Jensen Rosen, a 28 back, 37 points shy of Dimas, but still within that championship threat. But we've really got a 2-horse race here for the championship, don't we, Ben? And it should be a rather interesting end to the season with 4 rounds to go.
Yeah, it should, unless anything drastic, of course, happens to those front two. As you say, it should just be Alexander Dimas and Carlos Galindo gunning for that championship. 4 rounds to go. 4 exciting tracks as well. But Japan here today. Who's your money on? I think it's a 9-point lead with the PSGL point system. That's quite a distance. But of course, Dimas, we know he can maintain those results. But Galindo's always lurking. He's been on a good run as well, as a P6 for the last 2 rounds for Dimas. Did not start in Qatar for Galindo, but a P2 last round. So we'll have to see how those guys get on here today, as we are actually loading into qualifying, Max. So shall we get straight into the action? Who's your money on, though?
Oh, who's my money? I'm going to put it on to Jeremy Galanay. It's also, you can actually see here in the driver's standings. Of course, we've had Oleg Napadovsky racing with us here in F4, but after his 2 dominant victories, we have unfortunately said goodbye to him, as he's been promoted up into F3. But yeah, I think for quali, it's between Galanay and Rosen. They are 2 really strong contenders over 1 lap pace. It is dry. Quickly before we head into qualifying, though, we'd like to mention, of course, the racing partnership we have got with Sim Racing Centre. And as you can see, you can unlock extra performance with Pro F125 setups. You've got esports and stable setups for every track, quali race and wet setups, optimal strategies, free meta setup updates created by drivers that have been racing in PSGL and compatible with all platforms. And all setups are just $49.99, but if you use code PSGL, you get a 5% discount over at simracingsetup.com. But now let's head over to the qualifying action. And Alexi Cavero has a qualifying ban, but of course, a circuit like this as well, Ben, track limits can play a big factor, not only in the race, but in qualifying too.
Yep, absolutely. It could. Not as much as Kota, of course, but Alessandro Finn is going to be the first one to start his first flying lap, sorry. But yeah, track limits could be crucial here, and Sector 1 is always a challenge to get that one nailed, with it being such high speed, windy corners. So let's see how Alessandro Finn navigates it. I used to watch some of his hot lap videos before I went into a league race, Alessandro Finn is definitely one to keep an eye on as well. But my money today is on my good friend Jensen Rowson. I'm not going to be biased, but if Jensen Rowson wins, the roof is going to come off Max.
Yes, of course, Ben and Jensen, 2 very good friends, and I think you've been promised a win, haven't you, by Jensen here this evening?
Yes,
so
yeah.
It certainly put the pressure on the Williams driver, but as Alessandro Finn will get us underway, Ben, why don't you take us on the first lap of the Suzuka circuit?
Why not? Up to 8th gear, of course, on this straight, and then turn 1 is a tricky corner, of course, feeds into turn 2. It's all sort of one corner, you've got to guess the braking zone. Some drivers opt just for a lift and just a small bit of braking, but into this high-speed tricky section you can just see how much you've got to be careful on those curves. You go too much over, it'll bottom the car out and completely spin you off course. But Alessandro Finn keeps the minimum speed high, and he's done that pretty nicely, down to 60% on the battery, flat out here through the Degner curves, and braking hard onto the right-hander. Tricky little hairpin now, turn 11. Let's see how he navigates it down to 3rd gear. Runs a little bit deep, little correction on the exit, of course, that does him no harm at all. He's got a bit of traffic up ahead of him, but he's heading into now spoon curve, that is turn 13 and turn 14. Down into 6th gear, drops it down a couple gears further into 4th, and flat out on the exit as soon as you see the exit of that corner. And now it is 130R that is coming up to. Fantastic set of corners, of course. Fernando Alonso made it pretty famous with his overtake on Schumacher. And then into the braking zone here, nicely done. Over the curves, as much track as you possibly can, flat out to the line. Little dose of DRS before you reach the finish line, and Alessandro Finn starts us off with a 26.358 here in Suzuka.
Not too bad there from Alessandro Finn. Of course, that is now the benchmark as Giovanni Kennis. Can he displace that lap time from the Red Bull? Yes, he can by 0.3 of a second. Here comes his teammate Damien Curry up to the line. He slots into third fastest, about 10th shy of what we've seen Alessandro Finn do. Abdullah Bulak a little bit further back too. We got one of the Mercedes now heading up to the line. That's Abe Gabadi in the Mercedes. So what can he do? Can he at least separate the top two on the grid? Yes, he can, and he only just misses out on that provisional pole position. Lucas Shea goes into fourth. Let's keep an eye on to Alexander Dimas, who's now making his way to that start-finish line. Where does he go? Third fastest. Of course, didn't get a strong qualifying last time out compared to his compatriot of Carlos Galindo, who is championship compatriot, should I say, of Carlos Galindo, who's actually invalidated his attempt, and he's now going to be going for it again. Jensen Rosen to the line. We know he's oh so fast in qualifying, and he's the first driver to dip into the 25.9s. So some extremely quick lap times coming in early, and we've still got Galindo, Laranen, and Chanakinchi to come to the line.
Yeah, Gallané as well going into P2 then, splitting Kennis and Jensen Rowson. Let's have a look who is coming across the line. Thomas Lammen, and then for the Ferrari team in FVR as well. Fantastic driver is Thomas Lammen. Goes into P9, and Chanakinshi is coming across the line now. Let's see what he can do as he actually pulls into the pit lane. Smacks the bollard and takes it with him.
Yes, so Chanakinchi, a little bit of a struggle so far at the start of this race. Carlos Galindo, he's still now pushing on his next lap, as we'll see at 1 minute 9.0 in that middle sector from the Alpine. Now heading in to the Casio Triangle. Of course, the final chicane on the circuit. And is he going to elect to come into pit lane? No, he's going to finish off this lap. Seems to think it's a good one, or at least to get a time on the board. And he does get a time on the board of a 26.084. Oh, so close at the start of this session. And look at that. The top six separated by just a 1/10.5. And then look at that, from third all the way down to sixth place as well. You find a 1/10 of a second in Galindo's shoes, you're moving up to the second row of the grid.
Absolutely, that it's just such fine margins with these top drivers on this game. It's what you'd expect with the amount of practice that these guys put in, and it's just a thrilling spectacle, especially when it all comes down to that final flying lap at the end of the qualifying session. But Jensen Rowson setting the pace here today, 700ths away though, Jeremy Gallané, and let's see what he can do. But Jensen Rowson, I'm sure he'll be able to improve on this time. He's shown a massive increase in pace in the past 2 years, and I genuinely do believe he could one day make it to esports.
Yeah, Jensen, a very quick driver, has made leaps and bounds over the past few years. Now looking to try and cement third place in the F3 Championship, I think is what F4 Championship, sorry, is what he's going to be looking to do. Of course, currently sits there 28 points behind second place man Carlos Galindo, but he's always been that nearly man so far this season. Like with poles against Oleg Nebodowski, he was there, he was on the pace with the Mercedes driver before he got promoted, of course, after the past 2 rounds, but he was always there on the pace, just didn't have that clinicality on that final run to be able to fully snatch it away. But of course now Oleg Nebodowski is gone. This surely now means, in the qualifying sense at least, here Ben, that we're going to see Jensen Rowson really hit the forefront, and I think his biggest rival is going to be that Haas driver of Gallané, who is also a very, very good man over one pace.
Absolutely, and Jensen Rowson's got himself into a big team, big esports team, and it's all still a bit new to him. He's just solidifying himself into the top tier of racing the top league as well, PSGL, of course. And he's just getting familiar with the environment. Then I'm sure he'll go on to win a few races and pick up a couple of championships along the way as well. Abdullah Bulak, I believe, is going to be the next one to start a flying lap here in Suzuka. And is currently last of those who have set a time, so he'll be looking to improve at least into the top 10 in probably out for from this one.
Yeah, he certainly will. Currently on a 26.5. Of course, track evolution can come into play, and we could see times get quicker and quicker as this session progresses. And for Abdullah, it really is just a focus on trying to at least now get up into that top 10. So far this season, for the VCarb driver, he, of course, only has 4 points to his name. They have come in a 10th place and an 8th place finish, respectively, at Silverstone and also at Saudi Arabia. Each other race he has participated in has been a DNF, and that really doesn't bode well for Abdullah for the rest of this season, does it here, Ben? He's 700ths up in that first sector as the VCarb, but having that much of a DNF streak in you, it's not really the greatest of things for the remaining 4 rounds.
Absolutely not, and his best result looks to be P8, and that was in Silverstone, looking from the driver's standing. So let's see if you can pick up a bit of form then. Of course, any driver who competes at this standard, it's going to be tough for him to get some momentum going, but once you do get above that wave and start riding, it'll be a great feeling for the drivers towards the top of the standings as well. Even one good result could change your entire mindset. So let's hope for Abdullah's sake that he can get that result today into the points and keep himself moving as he comes into the pit lane.
And he's out of qualifying. Abdullah Bulak, unfortunate for the VCarb. I think he got a bit too spicy with the power there, and unfortunately saw himself go straight on into the wall at the pit lane entrance, as we've just seen Alessandro Finn now put himself up into second place. A wonderful lap time from him. He's not really been too much on form recently, but he has certainly fought back now here in Suzuka. Laminen went a little bit wide and invalidated out of that final corner. Then we have Jonas Orpel coming up to the line. Alan Schummer has just joined the lobby. Jonas, he goes into 6th place. Another driver into the 26 zeros. Jensen Rosen goes even quicker into the 0.8. He goes. Lucas Shea into 9th. Is that Damien Curiel to the line? Yes, it is. He goes up into 5th fastest now as well, as we now will see Alexander Dimas head to the line. What can the championship leader do? He goes 2nd fastest. Carlos Galindo is a little bit further back on his lap. We now have Giovanni Kennis in the Aston Martin. He then displaces Dimas for that 2nd fastest spot. Times coming in thick and fast, and these drivers finding all sorts of improvements. 700ths up by Galindo, but he's got a little bit deep into the Casio triangle, and unfortunately for the Alpine, I don't sense this being an improvement. Up to the line he goes. He does find a minimal improvement, but stays 10th fastest. What about Jeremy Gallinet on his lap? He's aborted. He's 10 seconds off the time. Avga Badi is also still on lap. Is he backed out as well? Yes, he has. So we've still got 2 more drivers be setting lap times. Surely on these runs they're going to be going again now. But for Jensen Rosen, he extends his grasp, but not by much, as Giovanni Kennis puts in a stellar lap time to put it on the front row of the grid.
Absolutely. Into 25.8 then is Jensen Rosen, but it's always the same. There's people behind you that will be challenging you and putting that pressure on you towards the end of the session. The final lap is absolutely crucial. Of course, banker laps are probably the most important laps of the session to solidify yourself for the rest of the qualifying, to make sure you have at least a time on the board. But of course, as the track ramps up as well, the grip will increase ever so slightly, and Jensen Rosen, along with Kennis, Dimas, Alessandro Finn, Jeremy Gallinet, will need these final laps and will be looking to improve by only hundredths or even thousandths, but that is the time that makes the difference come the end of qualifying.
Yes, it certainly does, and it could be a small error like we've seen from Galindo at the Casio triangle, or a slight loss of traction on the rear end, as Thomas Laminen has unfortunately left the session. I think that could be a disconnect on his part, but really that small error that we've seen from the Alpine driver, that now puts pressure onto his shoulders to now perform, because he knows he's got the time in the bag. He's got time in hand. He can at least find another 600ths onto that lap time and put himself up into that top 6. now he needs to find that little bit more, especially with Dimas in those 0.9s. He needs to try either hit a low 0.9 or see himself into those 0.8s if he wants any chance of out-qualifying his championship rival, which around Japan is oh so crucial.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said at the start, it's a bit like Monaco in a sense where qualifying pretty much guarantees you a good position for the race, unless obviously you have a stinker in the race. But one man to keep an eye on as well, Igor in the V-Carb, started this season fantastically. I remember commentating, I believe it was Imola, and I believe he was the championship leader. He's now down in P6 in the championship, but he's looking for a good result. Only P12 here today so far, but he's going to start another flying lap max, and let's see what the V-Carb driver can do.
Yes, here we are then on board of Igor PSGL. The form has certainly dipped over the last few rounds, but can he refine his feet and establish that momentum he once had? So heading into turns 1 and 2, of course, 1 is flat out. It's all focusing on this second quarter, down to 4th gear. Bring the car back out wide as we now hit the Suzuka S's through 6. Through turns 3, 4, 5. They're all pretty much flat out. A small lift through 6, and now up through Dunlop Curve, which is turn 7 on the circuit. Just really want to make sure the rear of the car doesn't step out, go too far wide, and it will certainly will. Into Degner 1, he's up by a 10.5 through that first sector. Nicely done through Degner 2 as well. Didn't look at the fronts or go too far wide that the rear of the car kicks out on you, and into the turn 10 hairpin, which I like to call the Kobayashi curve, down to 3rd gear from the V-Carb driver. The Polishman, of course, looking to try and break into that top 10 car. Only that 10.5 improvement will only place him in front of 11th place man Lucas Shea as we now head through Spoon Curve. A little bit wide from the first apex, but was able to hook it up nicely through the second. We're now heading into 130R. Up the hill we shall go. What we're looking like in the middle sector split of Igor. He's up by 0.2 of a second, but once again, this would only just place him in front of Lucas Shea. So later the brakes into the Casio Triangle. Surely made a mistake through here. A big slide. Had to put some opposite lock onto the car, and it's made him understeer through the second part of the chicane as well. Up to the line for Igor PSGL. What's this going to be for the V-Carb? 11 fastest and crashes over the line. That's a dramatic way to end your session. And for Igor PSGL, he crosses the lap time and also somehow bins his car.
Yeah, let's hope that gets cleared as well, because I'm not sure if that will ghost his car, as yes, it has cleared before those next drivers start their next laps. It is Alessandro Finn, currently in P4, but that means he won't have a final run. I mean, he went out very early, and that is his qualifying session over anyway, but potentially causing a hazard for everyone else.
Yeah, it certainly could have done, and for Igor there, I think he just wanted the track to himself. He wanted that clean air. He wanted to make sure he could focus on his own lap. And that has unfortunately cost him. He won't get the peak of the track, and he's just not seemed to have the pace. It really is going in a downward spiral for him this season. Alessandro Finn down by 200ths in the first sector and wide through Degner 2. That's surely going to be lap over there if he's going to be able to still find time. The closest car to him is going to be Chan Akinci, but we'll carry on with Finn and have a look at his middle sector split, see if he's still going to be up or down on this lap time. He still seems to be pushing on here, doesn't he, Ben? And for Finn, it's currently still a best start of 4th in the grid, so 2nd row, but that easily could be displaced in a matter of moments.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see what he can do. And on the run up to 130, I got a couple of drivers still yet to start their flying lap, 3 to be precise, down to 2 now, of course, and Alessandro Finn has backed out. So who shall we ride on board with? Max Chan Akinci is coming through 130R, but is invalidated.
Oh, that's unfortunate for Chan Akinci. So 15th is the best heel start in this race. Is it Giovanni Kennis? Yes, it is, heading through Spoon Curve, and he's up by 0.08 of a second. So this will now put pressure onto the FER Williams driver of Jensen Rowson. We'll see what Jensen can do a little bit later on, but he's lost a little bit of time as Kennis now 500ths up on his previous best as he now heads into the Casio Triangle. Keep it calm, keep it clean through here. He certainly could see himself on that provisional pole. Lamanen, of course, not able to make it back out in this session. Finn coming into pit lane. Here comes Kennis. Can he snatch it away from Rowson? Yes, he can. He does snatch it away from the Williams driver, who is in the first sector, up by 400ths of a second. It's not enough as it currently stands. I think Dimas is coming up to the line. Yes, he is. He's up by 0.2 of a second in the middle sector. The championship leader snatches it away from Kennis, and this now puts more misery on Jensen Rosen for another missed opportunity in qualifying for a pole position. The Williams driver a little bit deep into the Casio triangle. Can he find a way to somehow dig deep enough to snatch it back from Dimas? No, the Dutchman holds off against the Williams driver, but Gallane's up by 0.2 as well in that first sector. What can he do as he's about to head up to the line? Galindo wasn't able to find an improvement, and Gallane is nearly up by 0.3 of a second in the dying embers. Could the Frenchman take the pole position away from his old rival of Alexander Dimas of seasons past? Here comes Gallane. We said he was a man who's good over one lap. Here he comes to the line, and he does snatch it away at the death. Jeremy Gallane, the Frenchman, takes pole position here with a stellar last lap effort under the pressure, and that is the Gallane of they're the performances he can produce, and he snatches away from his old rival of Alexander Dimas.
Absolutely. Last lap pole position then. Literal last lap pole position out of anyone on the grid. 200ths he beats Alexander Dimas. And that is one of the best qualifying laps I've seen in terms of pressure. And Jeremy Gallane is on pole position here for round 9 at Suzuka. So let's see how we're going to get away as turn 1 and turn 2. We've seen a few crashes there in the past. Not particularly in this league, but we've seen a few crashes in real life in turn 1. So we'll have to see how those drivers get away. Hard medium is expected on the strategy, but Dimas from P2, Jeremy Gallane from P1. We'll have to see how Jensen Rosen gets off the line as well. Could he have a Valtteri Bottas reaction time in Japan? We'll have to wait and see. But that was a fantastic qualifying session, Max.
It certainly was, and another opportunity goes a begging there for Jensen Rosen, once again leading so much of qualifying, and unfortunately at the last hurdle people just seem to somehow dig deep enough to find the answer to his creation. But quickly, before we head into the race, let's quickly show you the, of course, track for this evening. So it is 5.807 kilometers, 18 turns with 10 to the right and 8 to the left, and of course with 1 DRS zone. It's going to be certainly something to look for, but the drivers are now going to be getting underway. We've got the 5 red light sequence. And it's Jeremy Gallane from pole, Dimas in second, and we're underway here in Japan. It seems to be a very good start from the Haas driver, but Dimas on that second part of the launch has seemed to draw alongside, and into turn 1 we go. The Dutchman is able to get by on the Frenchman, and Dimas takes that race lead away at the opening corner. We have 2 wide. Further back, that's Lucas Shea and Ave Gabadi. Of course, sector 1, not really where you're expecting to make too many moves, especially through this S section, but it's still side by side. The Kick Sauber and the Mercedes driver will be Shea on the inside now for Dunlop Curve. Make sure you don't understeer into your opponent through there. Lauren and the Orpal going side by side as well as we head through into Degner 1. Now Damien Curiel getting involved, shoving Lucas Shea off the road, and Lucas will lose out on that 1 second to Ave Gabadi, and Damien Curiel loses a position as well down into 10th place, and Ave Gabadi locks up, and it's a huge incident on the opening lap. Gabadi is out of the race. Many drivers will now have front wing damage. There is a virtual safety car on the road, and at the Kobayashi curve, Gabadi locked up under braking, and everybody steam charged into one another.
Absolutely. Giovanni, I think it was, that got rammed into there. I'm not sure if he was tagged round, but yeah, down into P12. I can see damage on the Mercedes. I can see damage on the Haas ahead. What about what's going on here? Are these guys just sorting their positions out? Yes, they are. As most people will be coming to the pit lane from P9 down, I assume, here.
Yes, I certainly think they will, and it's a disastrous start as well for Carlos Galindo. Of course, started in 10th. He's now dropped to 15th in this race. Going to quickly look at, of course, the tyre changes as we have gone back to green flag racing. Shea Marquise, Shea Marquise, Bulak and Akinci all into pit lane. As you can see on the tyre front, everybody on the medium compound except from Giovanni Galato, of course Carlos Galindo, and also Alexi Cavero, who had a qualifying ban and is already up into 8th place. The same with Gelato as well, but I think he's gone very wide with some damage to that Mercedes car. And unfortunately for him, I think he's going to see himself tumble very far down the order. Yeah, left front end plate missing. And he's just, unfortunately, going to see quite a lot of pace differential. And I'm surprised he didn't come into pit lane.
Wide from Damien Curiel as well at the Degner curve, the second Degner, and he's fallen down to P10. Now going to be P11 as the Sauber comes charging down the inside and nearly runs into the back of Carlos Galindo there. And Damien up now into P10. But yeah, not what you want to see. Alessi Cavero as well, swapping places with his teammate Thomas Laminen, now up to P7.
Yes, Laminen up into 7th place. Of course, that difference in tyre could certainly help out in that Ferrari challenge. But look at the gap the top 5 have over Igor Pjeski. That is all thanks to the Ave Gabadi incident that we saw at turn 10 on the opening lap, and it's Dimas who still leads the way from Jeremy Gallinay. So a dream gets away from the championship leader. This will certainly extend his lead at the top if he is able to hold on to a podium position and Galindo finishes where he is. But anything can happen here at Suzuka. A safety car could come arrive, and that could really displace the charge of some of these drivers. If it works out in Galindo's favour when he needs to come into the pit lane, put him at the front of this queue, and then for the Dutchman, it could be the championship lead potentially up in the air and or sliced in half.
Yeah, so before this stream as well, I had a look at the strategies of F3, and most drivers were on, in fact, all drivers started on the hards, I believe, but the top 7 have seemed to gone for the medium, so it's going to be medium hard then for these guys here, unless they brave the 2-stop, but I very much doubt that. As Alexi Cavero, Carlos Galindo, both on the hards, along with the McLaren, VCARB and Sauber, who have pitted.
Yeah, we'll see which one will work out in terms of that strategy front. Of course, that hard tyre, you can go that little bit longer, and then of course the mediums will be very grippy come the end of the race. And we could then see a massive charge up through the field from the likes of Cavero and Galindo, but we'll have to wait and see on that front. Of course, Chanakinchi is now unfortunately retired from the race. So that's him now out, and that is 2 drivers in the opening 3 laps of this race, unfortunately out of this one. Of course, Gabadi with that incident at turn 10, and now Akinci after the aftermath of that. He has elected to retire in the pit lane, potentially damaged, not being fixed on that car. But Dimas still holding firm against Jeremy Gallinay out in front. Of course, DRS has been enabled down that main straight. But even with the DRS, as Curiel's able to get back past on Carlos Galindo, I was about to say, even with DRS, it's extremely difficult to overtake down into that first corner. Because if you're in a DRS train like Rosen, Gallinay, you're all going to have that same pace differential in front, and they're all going to be wanting to save their tyres. You don't really want to be leading this race, say, come lap 27, because you're going to be swallowed up alive down that first into turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the problem with this game at the moment, and the last game as well. People just wait until the final lap to make all the moves. So they sit behind for the entire race and then make the move. And that's how you win the race. So it's no fault of the drivers, but that's just how this game unfortunately plays out. As we're looking at the start of a DRS train for the front 5, sorry, and then there's also a second train starting to form. As you see, 5.3 seconds behind Igor is with that front left end plate damage.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Giovanni, having that front left end plate, and he's just going to be struggling all throughout. Of course, now trying to play catch up the rest of this race, and being on those mediums will surely have to do a 2-stop strategy. Things 10 times worse for him as we now head down that main straight to start lap 5 of 27. Is anyone going to be close enough for a move? Is Gallinay going to go for a move on Dimas? No, he is not, of course. Just a little bit too far back into that first corner. And now as they head through the S section, the Frenchman just really dialing into rhythm. I think that's what a lot of them are doing now. They're not really going to be going for overtakes unless they do feel like they have a big pace differential to the car in front. They're just going to dial into a rhythm, stick within each other's DRS and focus on saving the tyres, saving the battery, and come around about lap 11, 12 in this front train. They're going to see themselves push on and then potentially make those moves.
Absolutely, the adrenaline rush of the first couple laps is now over for these drivers, and as you say, the Wilburys are getting into that rhythm. Bit of consistency now until the pit stop, and then you brake hard, of course, into the pit lane, and just reset yourself. Fresh set of tyres on, and then get back into that rhythm, that consistency until the end of the race. But these drivers are in that first phase now, and we'll have to see how they get on. If they keep up this pace, and of course the top 5 will be the only ones to challenge for the win, as that is a big margin for a league race at this standard. 5.8 seconds, obviously massively helped by that collision at the start of the race, that big pile-up we saw. But yeah, here we go with the top 5. Are we going to see a move from Gallané on this straight, as he's getting very, very close, Max?
He's getting very close, but just not close enough. You can see just hanging back ever so slightly, not using any battery down that main straight. Doesn't go for the move. What about a little bit further back in that battle for 6th place? Again, just seems that nobody wanting to go for things here. And for Carlos Galindo on those hard compound tyres, he only got passed by Damien Curiel a few laps ago. Of course, with that, with those hards, he's going to have a little bit less grip at this stage, and it will pendulum back into his favour in around about a couple laps or so. Still, he's not really showing the pace of the drivers up at the front of the field, and I think he's really starting to struggle. And when your championship rival is leading and you're in 10th, I think there's some big concerns going to be made from the Alpine, and he's going to have a heroic drive or even a miracle if he wants to negate the amount of points scored from the Red Bull man.
Yep, absolutely. And just got to take it race by race, but those races are dwindling down. Of course, 4 rounds to go, including this one. Time is running out for Galindo, so he needs to, try cut that margin down. But of course, this start of this race is not what he would have wanted. We've got a question in the chat, Max. Who's the commentator that sounds like Nathan Richards? I'm not from Birmingham, so I'm assuming it's not me.
I'm not from Birmingham either, so I have no idea.
I don't think anyone quite sounds like Nathan Richards.
No, he's got a very unique voice, has Nathan Richards. He's very much someone who's all about uniqueness with his voice, of course, as Cavero now into turn 1, able to get past Thomas Laminen. Nicely done there from the switch with the Ferraris. This could be that pendulum swinging. Now that Cavero's been let loose onto the back of Brzezinski into those hard tyre runners' favour. You can see through that first sector just how much they're able to pull away and gain on the car in front. You can see he's gapped Laminen by half a second. But I'll find about 2 tenths onto Igor Brzezinski in front as well. So the hard tyre is certainly starting to be the one that you preferably want to be on at this stage of the Grand Prix. And for Cavero and Galindo, he's gone very wide out of Degner 2 and had a huge moment. He's now put under pressure from Jonas Orpel. No move being made there. But those hards, if it wasn't for that mistake for Galindo, certainly going to be very racy at this next stage.
Yep, and that's totally fair. And good teamwork from the 2 Ferraris. I remember them swapping places earlier on, as the mediums were the quicker tyre earlier on. And now the swap back, of course, the hards will be getting into their working range. But let's look back to the top then. Are we going to see a move from Gallané this time round? I'm not sure, because we're still in that DRS train.
I don't think so. I just don't see it coming at this current stage. And now as we exit down onto that main straight, DRS of course will be open in the Haas's favour, and none of these front runners are looking for a move. And yes, once again, the Frenchman just electing to sit behind. Of course, took pole position. Lost it on the opening lap as Cavero now actually gets past Brzezinski. I say that, it's side by side through turn 2. There's a little bit of contact made. The Ferrari forced off the road and shown the grass, but still was lucky enough to come back onto the road just in front of his teammate. But with that grass, the car will be sliding, especially through these next few corners where traction is so crucial, and aerodynamic grip is also something that is key. He's been able to just clean off those tyres in time and be able to keep the car running on the road. But a little bit of controversy there, and for Igor, I just don't think he was able to show enough room for Cavero and just blatantly force him off.
Yeah, Alex's got to keep his head down. Of course, that has just happened to him, but he's got to keep a focused mind and just try get past Igor as cleanly and as safely as possible. Without any more controversy, we can't be doing any more of that, otherwise the stewards will have a busy night. But yeah, that's not what we want to see. But let's resume to clean racing.
Yes, let's resume to the clean racing from all of these drivers out in this field. And of course, with Lucas Shea now retiring, that brings our tally up to 3 with 14 now left in the race. Edson Rosen getting a little bit closer to the back of Jeremy Gallinay. Is he going to look for something? No, he is not. Alessandro Finn's actually dropped back quite some way to Giovanni Kennis, so I'm unsure if he's made a mistake somewhere. As actually Damien Courier was the first of the drivers to make a pit stop of the ones that didn't get any damage. And we'll see what he now elects to go on to. It'll be hard tyres, you would think. Taking him 17 laps, it's going to be a bit of a long way, and come at the end of the race, he's certainly going to be struggling for grip. But he's blinked first, he's gone for that undercut attempt. Will it pay off in his favour?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Time will tell. Some intel from Discord on the retired Mercedes drivers, Abe Gabadi. He increased brake bias instead of decreasing it, so I'm assuming he went straight on. And yeah, that is why he's out of this race.
Yeah, he just locked the rear, so obviously turning that brake bias down means, of course, the brakes more predominantly with under braking move to the rear, moves the balance to the rear. And if you go into a corner where you need some front end balance and you're stamping heavy onto the brakes, you'll see yourself spin round. And unfortunately, that is what happened to Gabadi. And then he just got absolutely pile drive from the field behind, being on
Like
the first
bowling,
lap.
wasn't
It was certainly like bowling. Because, of course, he's on that first lap. Everyone's congested together. And it was just a congestion effect as Dimas is now into pit lane from the race lead. Gallinay stays out. Rosen stays out. He's the first one to blink from the front runners. And Alessandro Finn is struggling even more. Does he have an issue with his setup or damage or something? Because over the course of the last 2 laps, he's dropped 5.2 seconds to Kennis up in front.
I know, it is definitely strange, but Dimas into the pit lane, onto the hards, which will take him to the end. And I've kept saying this throughout this game. When you're in first, it's almost a disadvantage because you've got to be one pretty much always to blink first. And if you get, if the overcut's huge, then you're the one to lose out. So we'll have to hope for Dimas' sake that the undercut will help him and keep him at the front of the field when these guys box. But sometimes it can be a disadvantage leading front and then being the one to blink first.
It certainly could be, because of course you don't know what everyone's going to be doing behind you, and you don't have that time to react. So you're really just there to fend for yourself, and you're just thinking about, well, they might come in this lap, so do I go in as well? And that's where things like that do happen. That's why you see in real life racing as well, a lot of these drivers, when they're battling for the race victory in their tyres, literally held up behind the driver in the lead. They very much do the opposite because you have that time to react and they do not. So for Jeremy Gallinay, heading into the first corner, does he now blink and put on a set of the hard compound tyres? Yes, he does. Just Rosen follow him through. Yes, Kennis too. They're all going to come in from those medium compounded tyres. Going to have 1 lap age deficit to Alexander Dimas, who was in front of him. I think Dimas will be able to hold on to that race lead, but for the Red Bull driver, he could come under threat come the end of this race.
Yes, absolutely. Alessandro Finn continues on, so we'll ride on board with Dimas then, and let's see where he comes out. And it should be clear of all of these drivers, and yes, he absolutely is. Alexander Dimas clear out front after boxing. It's quite a healthy margin.
It certainly is. That gap now just under 2 seconds. And of course, he's now got the heat into those tyres for this first sector, whereas these drivers behind him do not. So they could be a little bit slidey, maybe not able to carry as much speed through the corners as Alexander Dimas. And that is certainly being shown through the likes of turns 5 and 6. They've now dropped to 1.9 seconds behind the Dutchman. And for Alexander Dimas, I think he's pulled that off perfectly, just going a lap earlier. Nothing too major. And he was able to get that undercut effect because, of course, when he came into pit lane, that gap was 5 tenths per second, but he's been able to find about 1.3 seconds on to Jeremy Gallinay. And it's really worked in his favour, and the undercut seemed to be very powerful indeed.
Absolutely. As let's have a look a little bit further up. Then we've got 4 drivers left to box. And they, of course, are the top 4. Igor is very, very close to the back of Alexei there. Is he going to go for a move into the braking zone? He is going to go around the outside in the braking zone. Brakes nice and late and has got that move done nicely. Alessandro Finn into the pit lane. And Alexei has left the session. His AI continues on.
Oh, that's unfortunate for Alexi Cavero, who has had such strong pace on those hard compound tires. As here comes Galindo on that AI. He's had such strong pace as Alexi Cavero now leaving the session. That's going to cost him very dearly indeed. As, of course, him and Galindo on those hard tyres will be the ones continuing on in this race. As Jensen Rosen has been able to get past, actually, on to Jeremy Gallagher. So he moves himself up into second place. Of course, for the Williams man. Of course, we've known him as the nearly man in this championship. And he's just never been able to do too much and bring it over the line. Of course, a best finish so far this season of a second place, which came in Qatar. He's only 2 podiums, sorry, this season coming in the past 2 races. Is the second, a third. They be the day he completes that trio of podium places and makes it a first place. Needs to hunt down 1.9 seconds to Alexander Dimas, but it can be done. He has that pace in the Williams. Certainly could see himself onto the back of the Red Bull by the time we get to the end of this race.
It's a tall order for Jensen and Gallané and Kennis as well, who is with them. Let's not count out the Aston Martin for a potential podium here if things start to heat up towards the end of the race. But Alexander Dimas is going to be catching the AI of Alexi Cavero there. So we'll have to see if he's held up, because the Ferrari is not boxing just yet.
Yes, and of course Cavero, being in AI mode as well, won't move out of the way. It'll be a little bit of a rolling roadblock here for Dimas, and this is really huge as he's not been able to get by, has the Red Bull. Will he be able to do it into the S section? Yes, that is crucial for his race there, because now Rosen might be held up into the Degners, or as Cavero now joins back, so he might join just in time to get recontrol that car before Rosen catches up to him. I don't think so. Let's see if the Williams driver's now able to get by into the Degners. If not, we could see a big shift in this battle for the race victory, and he's not been able to catch up, and he's going to be really slow as Alexi Cavero. And that now changes everything, as we could see Dimas extend that lead even more as into turn 10. Oh, and Gallané nearly into the back of the Ferrari. Kennis will now try and follow through as well. But for Dimas, it's not really found him too much time, though, to be fair, which I thought it would have heading into the 2 Degners.
Yeah, if anything, Jensen's gained about 2 tenths there on Alexander Dimas since boxing. So, yeah, like I said, it's a tall order for the 3 cars behind and chasing the Red Bull. But it could be done, of course, with the DRS train earlier. We didn't see a lot of overtakes. So, if it's the same, it could be based on outright pace. But Jensen Ralston is going to have the clean air. And, of course, his engine temperatures will be a bit lower. As he's not following all those cars. So we'll have to see what his pace is like, and let's see towards the end of the race if you can catch Alexander Dimas, the championship leader, and bring a fight for this race win.
Yes, that is certainly going to be the question on everybody's lips. Of course, Dimas, championship leader, will be looking to try and extend that lead now over Galindo, who's on that alternate strategy. Currently 3.1 seconds ahead of his championship rival, the Dutchman, of course, of Dimas. And the Spaniard will be looking to try and potentially hold him up until he comes into pit lane. If he does get close enough, be able to bring Rosen into contention, and then once he's on those mediums, try and fly up through the field and carve his way into this train. But it'll be very tall order indeed for him, as now heading into turn 10. Rosen, over the course of this lap, found about 2 tenths of a second, so he's seeming to have the upper hand over Dimas at the moment, and might just be picking up a distant tow as well from the Red Bull, especially down some of these straights.
Yes, absolutely. Carlos Galindo, the only driver yet to pit in this race, of course, apart from Alexi Cavero after that disconnect. So we'll have to see when he calls it into the pit lane. Is it going to be this lap? He's just coming through 130R now, so we'll have to see after the chicane if he pulls it into the pit lane. But Dimas 2 seconds behind. Are we going to have the same thing where the provisional leader catches up to the guys yet to box? He's still staying out, so it could be this lap that they catch up.
It certainly could be, and unlike, of course, for Dimas against Alexi Cavero, Carlos Galindo is not an AI car and can stay in the way if he wants to. He can hold up the field behind. He can battle for position. It's not against the rules. But of course, will Dimas be able to breeze by on those much younger tyres? 9 laps is that difference between Galindo and Dimas's tyre deficit. And you can just see how much time Dimas is finding against Galindo. This time last lap, it was 3.2. It's now half a second separating the pair. But it's the Alpine doing this tactically to now hold up Dimas, as Rosen will need to just find 7/10 of a second to break into DRS range. And Dimas is looking for it into turn 10. It's very late on the break. Some contact made between the pair. It was brave. It was bold. And is it beautiful if he's able to pull this one off? He's going to be on the outside, which will be the inside for Spoon Curve. Of course, the outside down there straight. Galindo squeezing him to the inside line, but just doesn't have that mechanical grip to push him through, but will now fight back surely down through into 130R and into the Casio triangle to hold up his rival. But Jensen Rosen is within a DRS range of Galindo, and if he's able to hold on to this, he certainly could see himself latch onto the back of the Red Bull. As here comes the Alpine now to the outside of the Red Bull into the Casio triangle, forced onto the grass, and unfortunately for Galindo, that's going to bring the end to that battle. And will he dive into pit lane? No, he will not. And the Alpine driver has got the Williams of Rosen all over the back of him. I think he'll let him through, knowing that Rosen's on the back of Dimas now.
That may well have just changed the entire result of this race. Jensen Rowson, Gallané, and Kennis have been let back in with a chance of victory here, as the undercut worked nicely for Dimas. But of course, that holding up from the disconnected AI car of Alexi Cavero and then Carlos Galindo there as well. Jensen Rowson is in a fantastic place to win this race now.
He certainly is. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a little bit of controversy as well, because heading into the Casio triangle, under braking, we saw Galindo be forced onto the grass. So I don't know if that could be a report from the Alpine, but of course we wouldn't like it to go to the steward's room. We just want these hard, fair racing, as Kennis is being really held up here by the Alpine. And he will need to try and fight his way through, potentially like we saw Dimas do into Spoon Curve, but he will be off the DRS range from Gallané and Rosen, who have now got their target in their sights. And for Alexander Dimas here, he's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders for the next 11 laps. I'll be looking to just try and break away once more, but for Rosen, he certainly is in prime position to take this race victory if he's able to hold on to DRS.
Yes, Kennis as well finally gets past Galindo. He's dropped out of that DRS range, though, after being held up for so long. Let's see if he can gain it back in the chicane area. And I think he does just get it before the detection zone. As no, his rear wing is still closed. So there we go. Kennis is outside DRS, but these guys for the lead. Here we go. Jensen Rowson does take the race lead on lap 17 out of 27.
I don't know if that was a defensive play there from Jeremy Gallané behind, or just thought, I'm quicker. I have been quicker over the course of this race, and I could try break that DRS away from Alexander Dimas there from Jensen Rosen. A bit of a peculiar strategy, but it could work out in the long run. We'll have to wait and see, as Kennis is back within DRS range of Jeremy Gallané as well. So for the Williams driver, going to see if he can potentially break away from the Dutchman. But for the first time since, of course, lap 1, before we even got to the first corner, Dimas has been out of that race lead, or the net race lead of this Grand Prix. And for Galindo, he's done everything he can, but I think he's just going to try hold this stint out for a safety car and pray that it comes into his favour as we head now into 130R with Alexander Dimas. Are we going to see a switch of positions down into turn 1 again?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Or are we going to have the same scenario like we had earlier on in the race, where these guys just stuck behind one another, as the DRS just can't be broken between all these guys, and we're just stuck in that little DRS train we were in. And that is huge for Kennis that he's back in the DRS. That is absolutely vital for his chance of a podium or P2, even a race win. But Carlos Galindo finally pulls into the pit lane. As are we going to see move into turn 1? No, not quite.
No, unfortunately there, for Dimas not able to get that move done, and Galindo, it's been a disastrous race from him after that big swing in the points last time out in Texas. Hasn't been able to follow it up, and here at Suzuka, and unfortunately now sees himself out of the points as it currently stands, but will surely be able to get past Harlan Marquis quite easily, as he does pop out in front of Alexi Cavero. Now the hunt begins for Galindo. Can he at least get into 6th place by the end of this one? That will be his target. So that's what he'll be aiming for. I feel sorry for Alessandro Finn as well. Of course, he was in that battle at the front of the field for oh so long at the start of this race. Drops out in the 2 laps before the pit window. And has now seen himself just be in a bit of no man's land. He can see the cars in front. They're agonisingly close that they're in view. But he can't see anybody behind him as Carlos Galindo is able to get past Harlan McGreece quite easy into turn 10, and so is Cavero too. But yeah, for Finn, he's just now stuck in a bit of no man's land, and it must be just so agonising seeing the drivers in front of you and just knowing that he won't be able to catch up to him.
I know, it's, yeah, like I say, a bit of no man's land, but he's just going to hope that something ahead happens that is going to bring him back into this race for him to be able to challenge for a podium. DRS is what he needs, but of course 4 seconds adrift is quite tough to get. What are you seeing?
Oh, it's Galazzo. He's got a puncture, rear left puncture, being out on those mediums for so long, and he's crashed into the wall. And is that a virtual safety car or a full course? I think it's a virtual safety car he's brought out thanks to that. But I think he's trying to bring this one back to pit lane. He spun round into the wall. We have caught that on our camera. And Harlan McQueen takes this perfect opportunity to come into pit lane. And for Carlos Galindo, I'll be thinking if I stayed out one more lap, I could certainly be in that battle with the likes of Curiel and co, because he would have lost so much less time by boxing on lap 18. But unfortunately, that's how the cookie crumbles. That is how you play your cards. And for Giovanni, he's really struggling to get this one back into pit lane as his virtual safety car stays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Galindo, though, that is just the look of the draw. No one knew that the Mercedes tyre was going to pop, so nothing he could have done about that. So he's going to try his best to get to pit lane, but I think he's really going to struggle. Is he going to pull it off to the side and retire the car? What we got?
Pajewski drive-through penalty, speeding under virtual safety car. That now does change everything for that battle for the final few points. As we'll get off Giovanni, going through the gravel. But now we see Jeremy Gallinet all over the back of Alexander Dimas as well. But for Pajewski, that now gives Carlos Galindo an extra position for free. And he'll have to serve that in 3 laps time. And you can see Dimas nearly into the back of Rosen as Galindo now picks up 3 seconds as well. So that surely, unless other drivers pick up 3 seconds before the end of the race, just cements that P9 finish for him as we now head down into turns 1 and 2. Is anyone to make a move in these first few positions? It doesn't seem so. They're all just waiting for now. Of course, lap 20 of 27. We've got 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix. And for Carlos Galindo, I think this race, unless something drastic happens in the final 3, of course, there's still time in the season, but this will certainly slender his championship hopes and give it to the Dimas to go match points next time out in I think it's at Las Vegas next time out. And Jeremy Gallinet also running through wide through Degner 1 could now put Kennis all over the back of him.
Yeah, we'll have a look, see if he sends it as locked up as Jeremy Gallinet has gone straight on, and that allows Kennis to swoop under the inside and take that place and that podium place away from Jeremy Gallinet. But they've dropped out of that 1 second window. Hopefully they can gain back in to have a chance at P1 or P2 come the end of this race. As yes, he's just dipped back under to that 9/10 margin. So Kennis should have enough battery as well to maintain that DRS window.
Yes, he should just be able to hold on to things. Should Kennis, and he is 0.8 of a second between the pair. But this might now, with them dropping a little bit further back, might entice Alexander Dimas to now go for that move on Jensen Rosen, knowing he has that little bit of a safety net. If the move doesn't go right, he won't be pounced on by the cars further back. So we'll go on board with the Red Bull driver heading down into turn 1. Is he going to look for it? No, he's just too far back as it currently stands. And he's going to stay as he is. There's a yellow flag on the road. Is that for Orpel and Pajewski? I think it is, as Pajewski has got some front wing damage now. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes into pit lane and retires. Thanks to that, he's also got the drive-through as well. And for the Polishman, who started this season off so strongly, was in the championship picture in 3rd place not too long ago. And then here this evening, unfortunately, it's gone from bad to worse. And this season certainly has really just gone to nothing, and it's just been a really disastrous series of events. After one bad race, it's been another. Not been able to find that pre-season form we saw.
Yeah, it's a shame. It really is. But these drivers towards the front, they are absolutely on form. Alessandro Finn once again just still hovering in no man's land there in P5, but still a decent result for him, who's 6P17 in the championship, so that'll be a decent haul of points for him, hopefully moving up a couple of places in the standings with 3 rounds to go after this one. But let's see once again, into turn 1 and 2, are we going to see any moves from the top 4?
That is certainly going to be the question. Sorry about the pause, everyone. Something just randomly popped up onto my screen there. But Jensen Rosen, of course, still leading that train of cars from first all the way down to fourth. And he will defend the inside line because he sees Dimas getting closer and closer. He's got to swoop round the outside. Is he the Red Bull? No, the Dutchman just has to back away and have to regroup and recharge. But that's been the feistiest we've seen Dimas so far in this battle with Rosen. Of course, this is his first move he's properly made, showing his intent. Maybe he's just scoping out the Williams driver for maybe a few laps to come. And that could then mean, of course, Ben, that Rosen will be under all sorts of pressure because his tactics will be all sorted out by the Red Bull.
I know, it's just a matter of time. We'll have to see how this race plays out. All mind games will be in fruition and in play as these guys try getting each other's head to try and force them into moves, force them into defending, force them into overtakes. Every single one of these top 4 drivers can play a part in carving the race winner today.
They certainly can. As we now exit out of Spoon Curve. See if Dimas can finally get close enough for that move, or is he once again just going to try and bait Rosen into a defence? Of course, a total of 33 points will be needed. 34 points will be needed to win the championship next time out. So that is possible for Dimas if results stay as they are, because that gap in the championship will turn up to 20 points in the standing. So if another result like this, we certainly could see Dimas crowned next time out in Vegas. And that is certainly something to look out for as well. And if he does take that race lead, it will turn that gap into a 24-point deficit. And things like this, they will then put the pressure on Galindo. We could see more mistakes being made as he's actually been able to get past Cavero into turn 1. So these two on the medium tyres just trying to squabble and switch their way to catch up to the likes of Orpel. Not going to be close enough though. And for Galindo, I think actually a 10th place finish is the best he's going to get. So it'll be 1 point to his name compared to Dimas potentially getting 12 or even better, 16.
16 would be absolutely huge and probably put his mind at ease, especially with Galindo down in P9. With that 3-second time penalty as well, let's not forget about that, as Alexi Cavero is going to be hoping to gain that place, as long as it is legit. Of course, it could be challenged, that 3-second time penalty, in the steward's room. But again, let's look back up to the top. Let's see. Alexander Dimas has been lining up a couple moves. He's been using a bit of battery in the past couple of laps to try and get past Jensen Rosen. Is lap 24 out of 27 going to be the time that he makes the move, pull the trigger and gets into that race lead?
It certainly could be. As we now see Dimas down that main straight. I just don't think he's close enough, and I think he might actually be charging down this straight, saving that battery, waiting a little bit longer. Of course, now 4 laps to go in this Grand Prix. It really is crunch time for these drivers, and they will need things to go their way. And for Alexander Dimas, the championship leader, after a disappointing Qatar and Texas, wasn't able to capitalise in Qatar on the likes of course, Galindo, Pajewski, and Kenneth as well, not being in attendance. Only able to make that gap 16 points to the Alpine driver. It got brought down in Texas as well after a superb 2nd place from the Alpine and a disappointing 6th once again from Alexander Dimas. But we've seen that return to form now from the Red Bull man. And he is going to put himself within touching distance of that trophy. We're going to have 3 laps to go. And will he finally conquer F4 after so many seasons in this division? Finally going to be able to break into F3 and get that promotion he truly has deserved. He's always had that glimpse of pace. He was always the bridesmaid at one point, never the bride. Finally be the man at the forefront of this championship.
Absolutely, that is the question that we all want to answer. This is a huge race for me as well, especially with Jensen Rowson. Means a lot to me, and I'm sure to him as well, if he can grab this race win here today. As it's lap 25 out of 27, it's looking like there's not going to be a move here into turn 1 and turn 2. They all just stay put, especially in that top 4. Let's have a look further behind, shall we? See if there's any move on the straight. But I think it's the same scenario again. Just that second DRS train and nobody able to budge past.
They're all just waiting, especially the drivers second place in their queues. They're just waiting for, of course, the final lap, using that DRS down the main straight, because there won't be any more DRS straights after that on lap 27. And they know if they can just hug the car in front of them and then use all their battery down that main straight, it's an easy overtake. And then it will just come down to holding on for the rest of the lap. And that's what both Laminen and Dimas are doing. Of course, these trains have really been split because of that incident on the opening lap. It really did throw everything up in the air and cause a sheer amount of pandemonium and really split the trains in two. The only outlier of that was Alessandro Finn. He's actually been able to find a little bit of time onto the likes of Galanet and Kennis. That gap down now to 3.8 seconds. But it just won't be enough for him. And he's been pulling away from Curiel. So even though he's finishing 5th and he's not really going to be finishing around anyone, I think Finn can be happy with his result, because in this second stint, he has certainly drove a lot better. And I think he's been a lot more composed and consistent over the past few laps.
Absolutely. After his pit stop, he just got back into that rhythm like we were speaking about at the start of this race. No one around him. He's just banged in lap after lap. Decent lap after decent lap. And he's got himself, or he's going to pick up, what's that, 6 points here today in the PSGL's point system. So he can be happy with that, definitely. Alessandro Finn, solid race from me.
Yeah, he's had a bit of a lackluster season, unfortunately, Alessandro Finn. And he'll be wanting to just finish this one on a high, of course. Currently a best result this season of if I can find him in the standings. A best result this season of a 6th place. He's also a bit like Abdullah Bulak, who's only scored 2 points finishes this season. It was a 6th in Imola and then an 8th last time out in Texas. So carry on a point scoring streak for the Red Bull driver. So for Alessandro Finn, the Italian, a disappointing season. But if he can finish it on a high, certainly one to look back on as Alexei Cavoro able to get past Jonas Orpel on those medium tyres, and Galindo was able to do the same up into turn 10. Of course, Galindo will drop to the back of this train and will finish in 10th place. But at the front of the field, Jensen Rowson has one more lap to cement this victory. Or can Dimas now down this main straight fight back against the Williams driver?
Yeah, Dimas is very, very close. I think the closest he has been. So he's using that battery, everything that he does as he's using that DRS. Jensen surely going to go into defence mode here, into turn 1 and turn 2. Yes, he is. And Dimas is not close enough to make the move. I thought we were going to lunge one up the inside into turn 2. But this is a huge moment for Jensen Rowson. He's still so young, a lot still to learn as well in league racing. But he's solidified his name here in the top ranks, and Jensen Rowson is on course for a win. In behind, we've got Damien Curiel and Thomas Laminen going side by side through turns 1 and turns 2, and Thomas Laminen does come out ahead, and Galindo's poking his nose around the outside there, just gets shoved a little bit wide, and Cavero's swooping around the outside now in the S's, and there's a bit of wheel banging here, Max, but yeah, I think they've all just got it sorted out. Cavero is going to have to just stay behind on this occasion.
Yes, he certainly is. And for Carlos Galindo, he's going to have to just try and focus on keeping this one on the road. Don't want to spin out or crash into wall and score no points at all, where your rival is picking up 12. But for Jensen Rowson, he's got just the Casio triangle to go to really defend from. Of course, 130R isn't going to be an overtaking opportunity for Dimas, but I think he's just got the legs, has the young Brit. And this has certainly been a race win in the making. He's had the pace all season long. He's just never had that finishing touch. But here in Suzuka, he's finally found that magic touch to finally bring this one home. The bridesmaid has become the bride. Jensen Rowson, for the first time in PCF4, wins the Japanese Grand Prix. A superb drive from 4th on the grid from him, as Galindo is now squabbling with Damien Curiel over 7th place. And here comes Alexi Cavero to the outside. He goes across the road, and Galindo, is he into the wall? No, there's some contact made between the pair. He'll finish 10th anyway, Will Galindo. And Curiel picks up 2 10-second, actually a 1 time penalty for gaining a position off the road. I've never seen 20 be held for one of those. I only see 10. And we have the rest of the field come across the line. So drama at the end there involving one of the championship hopefuls. But for Jensen Rosen, it's exactly what he needed. And he finally puts that race victory onto the board.
Absolutely, that'll mean so much to him. And of course to me as well. I've known Jensen for more than 2 years. At 13, he joined my own F1 league in the lowest tier. I've watched him grow as a person and develop his pace, and he started to win absolutely everything. And from the lowest tier of my own league to a top performance in the biggest F1 league out there, Jensen Rosen takes the win here in PSGL F4 at Suzuka. What a driver and what a person as well.
Yes, a very lovely man, of course. We'll hopefully be able to get him into the interview room to, of course, hear his thoughts. But he's finally been able to conquer that peak. He's had the pace in qualifying. He's never got the pulse. He's had the paces in the race and in an incident, or he's just not been able to be clinical enough to get them across the line, and he's finally been able to do it. Alexander Dimas, your championship leader, will finish in second, so that takes his total over Galindo to 20 points. Kennis will be in third, Gallané fourth, then Alessandro Finn in fifth, Thomas Lamond in sixth, Orpul seventh, Cavero in eighth, Galindo will finish ninth, but I'm sure Curiel will be able to get that penalty removed. Don't know what the stewards will say about that last lap pandemonium. Pajewski does round out your top 10, followed by Macrease, Curiel. Then your non-finishers are Giovanni, Bulak, Shea, Akinci, and Gabadi. But that was a spectacular race there, Ben. And overall, it was just full of attrition, and it all came to that final lap. And for Jensen Rosen, he did it perfectly. Exactly what he needed to do. Was able to build that gap out of Casio Triangle. And Dimas just wasn't able to get close enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I shouldn't be biased, but that is a huge win for Jensen Rosen. And one that means a lot, I'm sure, to him. His first win of the season. I'm sure his first of many as well. Let's hope he does get into the interview room for a chat after that race. But nonetheless, another good race here in PSGL in F4. So let's have a look. Jensen is in the waiting room. So can we drag him in, please, Max?
Yes, let's drag in, of course, Jensen Rosen. Just going to be asking the other drivers if they want any interviews for this evening. And, of course, let's start off with the man currently in the waiting room. It'll be a bit rude if we made him wait for the rest. Let's bring in the maiden race winner of the evening, Jensen Rosen. Hello, Jensen. Can you hear us?
Yeah, can I?
So, a brilliant race that was here in Japan. First of all, congratulations on that first victory of the season. But talk us through how that one. How was that race?
I mean, it was a very good race, definitely. I mean, the pace was there, 100%. I mean, quality was a bit poor. Definitely didn't maximize it, but yeah, race was amazing. The setup definitely worked very well. Yeah, it was fairly good. The pace was there. The management on the tires was really good, especially on the hard stint somehow. And yeah, I think the ARS, it was just so difficult keeping Dimas behind for all those laps, because I basically had to nail the chicane however many times he was behind me. I had to nail it every time. If I made one mistake, then I knew he'd be right on it. So it was a stressful one, definitely. But yeah, I managed to keep my cool and just manage it well. And yeah, really happy finally. First win, probably quite overdue. I think definitely been up there, but yeah, now finally I would say they got my first win.
Yeah, you certainly have, and you have had the pace all season long. You've been the nearly man of this championship, but of course it was somewhat assisted by Galindo, who of course held up Dimas ever so slightly. Of course he was of course, entitled to fight for his position. Once you saw you were in DRS range, were you very much, I've got to make my move now on Dimas, or there could be opportunity that this won't be made at all?
Yeah, I kind of thought as soon as I get an opportunity, I need to try and get Dimas because I had Jeremy behind me. It was also very quick on the same tires as me, same lap amount, old tires as me. So I knew if I didn't get Dimas, then Jeremy would definitely have a go at me. So I needed to get past him quickly. And I thought maybe if I got lucky, you know, maybe Jeremy would fight Alex, I could try and gap, or maybe Dimas would make a mistake on those older tires at some point and then I could gap, but he stuck with me. But yeah, it was kind of just a case of try and get past him and then just manage from there.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was all about, of course, managing your tyres at the end there and heading down that main straight on that final lap. What was going through your head? Were you expecting Dimas to be able to get the overtake done, or once you come out of the Casio triangle, were you very much, I've got this in the bag. I know I've got the legs over him. I'll be able to defend in that first corner.
I definitely wasn't 100% sure because I didn't know if he was just like I was kind of getting an estimation of how quick he was in a straight, and I think I was a bit quicker on wings, but I didn't know whether he was like spamming battery before on the few laps before, so I didn't really know, has he just saved his battery to 100% and he's just going to blast overtake and then overtake me. So I wasn't 100% sure. I definitely wasn't certain, but once I think it was, yeah, at one point I kind of knew, because it was usually about 4/10s you kind of want to be in to have a, you know, a good opportunity, because obviously it's so difficult to overtake it around this track. Because turn 1 is basically the only DRS, well, yeah, it's the only DRS zone, and it's a long corner, so it's, even if you got better tires, you have to, yeah, it's just so difficult to overtake around the track. Yeah, because the only place after a DRS zone is a super long braking zone, well, a high speed long braking zone. It's not really an overtaking zone, so I kind of knew, or in the back of my head I thought, okay, I probably got this, just defend that inside line, make sure he can't, you know, lunge one up the inside, and yeah, I think, yeah, it was about there. Yeah.
Yeah, one last one from me before I pass over to Ben. Here, Jensen, just how does it feel finally getting that win across the line? How are you feeling right now?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I'm so happy. It's been, like I say, quite a long time coming. I mean, earlier this season, I wasn't doing brilliant. I mean, of course, attendance wasn't ideal because my my power supply just decided to die the day of the first race, so that didn't help. And then, yeah, the next few races just weren't ideal. I was kind of just bottling under pressure, and especially in qualifying. And I still think my quali could be a bit better, but yeah, I've definitely developed a lot throughout the season, and just better at managing pressure and stuff like that, as you know, you kind of saw today. I don't really slip up, you know, of course, so many laps with Alex behind me, so yeah, FER have definitely been a huge help with that. Since I joined, they've been, yeah, absolutely massive in my development, so yeah, big thanks to them, of course. And yeah, I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, you certainly have developed as a driver over the season. We have seen that time and time again, especially over the past 3 races with those 3 podiums now and that race victory. So yeah, I know Ben's probably very eager to talk to you here, Jensen. So I'll pass you over to him. And Ben, what questions have you got for Jensen this evening?
Jensen. You never let me down, my son. What a way, and what a commentary duo as well that you've got for your first win this season. I can speak for probably the past 2 years and say your improvement has been absolutely ridiculous. I'll give you a little speech as well after the checkered flag, so I'd watch back on that one. But watching you in FCR Tier 2 under a different name and now winning F4 in PSGL, it's absolutely incredible. I haven't got any questions for you. I just want to say congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, well done, Jensen, on that victory. And yeah, just go and enjoy your evening, mate. Celebrate that one. And I'm sure everybody is very pleased with that because you've been working hard all season. You're finally reaping that reward here. Here's to many more to come.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Right. See you in a bit.
Right. So we've gone from the first place man. Shall we speak to the third place man of Giovanni Kennis here? Ben?
Let's do it.
Hello, Giovanni. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
First of all, congratulations on that third place, your first return to the rostrum since Hungary. So, of course, you've not raced since then. So, the streak of your last 3 races, 3 podiums, lives on. Just talk us through that one. How was that race?
Yeah, I was quite surprised actually that I still finished on the podium. But yeah, we made it work.
Certainly did indeed. And I mean, Galinay had that little slip up in front of you, went wide through Degner 1. Did you know that was going to be your only opportunity? Did you think, I've got to get this one done, or he could just slot back into the train and stay somewhat in Dimes's slipstream and keep onto that position?
Yeah, well, I knew I had to try it because I had a way faster exit. So then I just did a dummy and he went for it. He almost went straight, I think. And then I managed to pick up that place.
It was a very nice move indeed, that dummy. He locked up into the hairpin, of course. That another podium to your name. Well, before this race, you were 4th in the standings. Of course, 2nd place could actually still be on in that championship. Galindo's poor result this evening. What are your aims for the final 3 rounds?
Well, obviously I will try to win, but I will try to win the races. But yeah, it will be hard, but yeah, I will see if it's possible.
Of course, we head to Vegas next week. How are you feeling around there? Well, first, will you be racing, and second of all, how are you feeling around there? Are you confident?
Yeah, I will be racing. I'm not quite sure about Vegas, to be honest. I haven't really done it a lot this game and last game, so we'll see.
And of course, one last one from me as well. Do you know what happened to Alessandro Finn in that race? Because he was all over the back of you, and then all of a sudden, in the span of 2 laps before the pit window, he dropped 5 seconds behind. Did he make a mistake, or did he just drop off pace-wise?
I think so. I also saw that the gap went from like 5 tenths, 6 tenths or something to like 5 seconds almost. So then I asked my engineer what happened, and he said he spun, I think.
Makes sense.
But yeah, very strong outing from yourself. And yeah, did you feel like you could get any more from that race, or was it just 3rd place was better than what you thought you were going to get?
Yeah, 3rd place was the maximum this race, I think, because I also didn't really prepare a lot. So yeah, my pace really wasn't good, but I still managed to get 3rd.
Well done on that one. Ben, do you have any questions for Giovanni?
Yeah, P3 in your last race here in PSGL, and then it was P1 in Spa, and of course a podium again here today. How eager are you to carry that momentum into the final 3 rounds and gun for that P2 place in the standings?
Yeah, I will try my best, of course, and yeah, we'll see.
Very good result as well today. That's all from me.
Thank you.
Well done, Giovanni, and yeah, go enjoy your evening. And hopefully, we'll see you next week on the podium, or potentially the winner again.
Yeah, thank you.
Right then, ladies and gentlemen, that is, I think, all we are going to have for tonight. But I think before that, we should run these folks through the calendar, of course, here, Ben. 3 more rounds to go. Be very spicy end to the season. And, of course, Dimas, next time out, can actually claim that title. So, of course, we have Vegas. Then we have Brazil and Mexico in this one. In the remaining parts of this season, Dimas will need to leave Las Vegas with a 35-point lead in the standings if he wants any chance of wrapping up the title. There's 34 on offer after that. Actually, no, he'll just need the 34 points because mathematically, if Galindo isn't, of course, does win the 2 races and Dimas doesn't score and gets the maximum points possible, Dimas will still win the title on countback. So he certainly would still be in, will still win the title. So 34 points is all he needs. It will head up to a total of 19, I think, actually, after that 9th place for Galindo. Post stewards inquiries. So 3 rounds to go, all of course in the Americas of Vegas and then Mexico in the north and Brazil in South America. It's all to play for, but for Dimas, I think he's got one hand on this trophy here, Ben.
Yes, absolutely. But 3 exciting tracks as well, so definitely not any to miss as well. So keep an eye on the streams as well for that one. Hopefully, me and Max will be back in the commentary booth for a couple of those rounds at least. So yeah, it should be exciting end to the season. And even if Dimas does tie up the championship next round or the round after, definitely should be still watching the streams for some exciting action here in PSGL.
Yeah, because even once that title is all said and done, gloves will then be off. Drivers will be just fighting for sheer personal glory over the title, and be a very fun one. I think that is going to be all from us here. So Ben, any last words before we round off this stream?
Just thank you and congratulations, Jens and Rousen.
Yes, congratulations to all of our podium sitters this evening. I'll see you next time out for a trip to Sin City. Who will Dimas be able to hit the jackpot? Las Vegas, or will he just have to wait that little bit longer in that roulette wheel just rounds later to win that Drivers' Championship? Make sure you join us next Thursday at 8 PM UK time. Of course, it should be me and Myth back once again, but if not, I'm sure Ben will delightfully step back in to the commentary box. So you shall wait for then. But for now, that is going to be all from us. Thank you all very much for watching. This would not be possible without you guys at home, and for the drivers as well for pushing such a stellar race too. But stay safe, stay well. See you next one. Thank you very much, and goodbye.